It's Primus Tracks with Josh and Frankie.
What a couple of dumb shits. Hello, Primates! You found Primus Tracks. Congratulations. Haha, you thought you were done with us for a few weeks, but you're not. We have one more studio track to talk about from the Punch Bowl era, sort of, before we get into our inter-album interviews. I am happy to tell you, that's my dog. That was great. I am Josh. Right over there, behind the glass at Primus Tracks World Headquarters in Mexico City is Frankie.
Hi, Soya. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Frankie. And of course, as Frankie spoiled, even though it was in the credits that you probably saw when you downloaded the episode, it's Soya!
Yo, El Pastor from Mexico City. Where's my package, Frankie? I'm waiting.
Your care package is on its way.
Yeah, send him a tracking number, huh? That'd be nice of you.
The cool thing is, I'm going to start getting the royalty checks.
Oh yeah, any day.
Remember, you told me you were going to pay me to do this.
That's right, and so be careful because they're post dated pretty far out. So be
post dated never.
Yes.
All good, man.
We're getting into the next century because my estate.
I told you, unless something comes up, I cannot be here. I'm here, man. I'm in.
Right on. Well, of course, we thank you for being here, and quite often the feedback we get is Soya is the best part of the podcast, which I actually agree with, so it's fine with me. It's great.
I don't know, man.
It depends how many beers you've had. So we'll.
That's true. That's what my wife says.
I think we'll start making the Soya beer meter and finding out about where you are every time we start recording. Yeah. So today we're talking about Hello Skinny / Constantinople, 2 tracks originally recorded by The Residents, but covered by Primus. And this track has a pretty interesting history. We'll talk a little bit about The Residents. We'll definitely talk about the Primus version as well, and the influences under which these tracks were created. Not like drugs, but like Les was a big Residents fan. That's what I'm getting at. We talked about drugs last time. Frankie, what do we know about The Residents?
Wow, Josh. Such an interesting band. I mean, when we spoke with Elizabeth Gore last year, she told us, a bit of her first-hand experience with this band. They have gone through different configurations, always, in anonymity. But we know that Homer Flynn is a key figure for the Residents, as a band, as an organization. They sort of started, as an art band, putting out, really weird conceptual albums in the late 60s. They have over 100 studio recordings. So it's quite a complex band. They always put on a really interesting live show. And they are also known for the innovative packaging in their records and, all their multimedia stuff. I mean, it's no wonder that Les is so attracted to their music, because it's pretty unique and unusual. And I think there is mutual admiration between both bands.
You make a great point there, especially about how the Residents decided to chart their own path, remaining anonymous, not showing their faces, making it more about the music, putting the onus on the music. I think we get a little bit of that with Primus live shows, and even on Primus record releases, there are not often pictures of the band members themselves, but there usually is some kind of artwork inside the album sleeve. Tales from the Punch Bowl, perfect example of that, to stand as a companion for the music as opposed to the centerfold picture of the band looking all cool, right? So there's a little bit of that there.
Well, tell me this, Frankie, if I can interject here, just because I need to know as we carry on with this description and stories, is the band been the same members always?
No, there have been changes over the years,
but there's a main dude. You just said his name. I'm not aware of
Homer. Yeah, Homer Flynn seems to be the public image for the band. I have actually spoken to him in person once in Mexico City. He's a pretty cool guy. At least when I saw them live in 2011, he was doing the lead vocals. This was a 3-piece configuration of the band. It was Homer Flynn on vocals and 2 guys on guitar. So yeah, there have been different members along the years.
Is he the only dude from the very beginning?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure who were, the founders or any of that. On a different topic, just to give you an idea of how out there the releases can be. In 2012, they released a box set. It was called the Residents Ultimate box set. And it was actually housed in a refrigerator.
Yes.
Originally, they intended to make 10 of those refrigerators, but they only made 2. So you could purchase the refrigerator with 100 first pressings of their releases and also get an eyeball mask inside. Or the alternative was to purchase a mystery box for $5 million.
That's right.
Which turned out to be, the complete publishing rights to their music. But since Cherry Red now owns their catalog, the mystery box is no longer for sale. These are just 2 examples to give you an idea of how unique their releases can be.
That's cool. People pay $5 million for stupid stuff every day all over the place.
Yeah.
It's funny they put such a low price tag on it, if you ask me.
Well, yeah, that's what's interesting because I think, of course, they're sending up this weird consumer culture in which they're participating by putting a mystery box up for $5 million. But and nobody's going to buy it because it's a mystery box. But it contains the rights to all their recordings, which are legion. So that is another layer of their genius for sure. And going back to
I love that level of stuff. It's
cool.
Yeah,
and going back to just that idea that this band has remained shrouded in mystery over all these years. Some names have come up. I think one guy, and I forget his name, he declared himself as a member of the Residents in 2017. Outed himself, but then he died in 2018. So who knows? But what better way, I think, to ensure the longevity of your band than to remain anonymous and wear eyeball masks and top hats and other costumes and never reveal your true identity. So when you're 70 years old and want to retire, you can just hand off that costume to some 25-year-old dude or 30-year-old dude and go, you're this guy now.
I think that's kind of what the Wu-Tang Clan did at first, because everybody was such unstable members and weirdos and everyone was broke ass. If you look at that 13 Chambers record, they all have masks on. You can't see who anybody is. It's just like a plain face, And the theory, all of a sudden they became huge. And of course they all said, what? I'm Method Man. I'm Ghostface Killer. I'm the Old Dirty Bastard. I got my own solo record now because I'm in the Wu-Tang. Like that just turned a corner immediately, So it's really cool that they've stuck to it and adhered to the anonymity,
Right, yeah.
Forever, for the whole thing, That's cool.
Yeah, they've, as a group, never said, we are the Residents, here are our names. They have kept this going. And Frankie, as you noted, Elizabeth had to be a bit cagey with us. Not that we were probing too much, but she had to say, there's a lot of things I can't tell you about him.
Yeah.
Right. She got to work with them, when it was Randy, Chuck, and Bob. So it's a 3-piece band that I was telling you about. And as you mentioned, Josh, there was a 4th member, Carlos, who departed in 2010. And, these 3-piece carried on until 2017.
And they've also had all kinds of collaborators over the years. Most notably to me would be the guitarist Snakefinger, who Larry has name-dropped him a bunch over the years as being an influence on him.
He was in the Residents? I thought he was in Captain Beefheart.
Snakefinger worked with the Residents here and there in the 70s, I believe. I don't think he ever worked with Beefheart. What a guitarist, man. He's another guy. He might have, built the empire that was a precursor to Lurland. If you listen to his stuff, because he's doing whatever he wants. It's really cool that all these different names associated with him, like Snakefinger, and Les Claypool's always said the Residents were a huge influence on him, and Larry naming Snakefinger, like they put an imprint on these 2 guys, these core members of Primus. So, and at some point in some interview, and Frankie, you probably know the name, date, and publication, at one point, I'm guessing it was about 50-50 as far as joking and seriousness. Les at one point said, I'd quit Primus to join the Residents.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. So
Lur said that or Les said that? Who said that?
That was Les, yeah.
Oh, Les. Okay, yeah.
He loves the band.
He's absolutely huge fan. So to cover this band is a challenge in and of itself because they use such non-traditional instrumentation. As Frankie said, they have over 100+ recordings out there.
Yeah.
I think 40 odd studio records at this point. But if you are looking for somewhere to start, I would recommend Duckstab / Buster and Glenn, because you get 3 original tracks by the Residents that Primus have covered. So you get a nice bridge there, a nice transition to the sound of the Residents. And it's a fantastic album. I got it out the other day.
What's the third song they covered after these 2?
Sinister Exaggerator.
Sinister.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would also recommend Duckstuff and the commercial album that one is pretty neat because it's a 40-song album, but each song is just 1 minute long.
Yes.
The idea was to make 1 minute pop songs, but they are really out there.
Yes. The commercial album's great. It's short and sweet and to the point, and it's 40. Yeah, it's 30 odd. How many tracks is it? It's like 30 or 40 odd?
Yeah, like 40 or 40 something tracks.
Yeah.
I just wanna backtrack a little, Josh, because Homer Flynn is the spokesperson for the residents and the Cryptic Corporation, but I can't find any confirmation anywhere. If he's a band member as such. I kind of heard that rumor somewhere, but with their identities being a secret, there's no way to know if he's actually a musician in the band or just a representative.
That's awesome that not even Frankie can find out this information.
I know. Frankie is the combination
digger of information.
He's the combination Woodward and Bernstein of our generation, and he can't even find out. So
that's great. That's really cool that they've held this.
Yeah, totally.
The secret shit, man. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. And what's even better is the people that they keep in their camp it's got to be a small number of people. Nobody has spilled the beans. Nobody's blabbed, which is great.
You have to sign the paper,
Oh, there have to be all kind of NDAs. I've had to sign the paper
a couple times, you cannot talk about this band ever after you leave this tour,
Right. Yeah.
It happens sometimes.
I'm sure. Absolutely. And going to somebody like Prince's house, you're probably signing an NDA when you walk in the door.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's funny when we were talking to Adam and I confessed to him that I'd done some Morrissey gigs, right? I did one little run filling in for the drum tech and he freaked out. But that moment, it was just like 3 shows and there were signs hanging up around backstage all over the place saying no Facebook, no Instagram.
Oh, wow.
Anybody caught posting will be fired. It was seriously like that, like he did not want anybody saying, I saw Morrissey's, the back of his head. Then it's like, you're fired. You told somebody you saw his head, or, what I mean, it's whatever. I've heard some ridiculous stories about people getting fired from Morrissey, but there has to have been some stuff like that. If you work for the residents that you were sworn to secrecy, whether it was a legal document or, they slit your throat and threw you in the ditch, if they found out you were telling people who they were,
Figuratively, I hope. Goodness.
I'm just trying to guess. I don't know.
Well, they did call themselves the Cryptic Corporation, so who knows? Anything could be going on there.
It's awesome.
Kind of espionage.
It's really awesome.
I love that.
It kind of reminds me of what Gavi told us, Josh, when we spoke to her about how things had to be very secretive when Buckethead was on tour with them.
That's correct.
That's another guy. Yeah. So you can probably talk about that experience of working with Bucket on and off, right? Or just being around him.
I know that, dude.
And that's all he can say.
With Bucket over the years, of course, Deli Creeps and Praxis and Bucket of Bernie Brains and all that, whatever. Primus. He's been around everything, man. Deli Creeps used to open up for Victim's Family when they first came around. We'd get them on
killer.
Yeah, it was fun.
Nice.
I heard an interview with Buckethead, because he actually gave a spoken interview a few years ago. And
wow.
I don't know if the interview was, like his voice.
It wouldn't have been his real voice. There's no way he would have.
He was very soft spoken in the interview. That was surprising for me.
He's a mousy, quiet dude. It's trippy. He puts the mask on in the Bucket and comes on stage, and it's like some other dude. Man, it's crazy. It's cool. I mean, he's also held his anonymity pretty well.
I have to imagine those Residents guys. I assume Bucket mostly makes his living recording music and releasing it and touring and all that. But it seems to me like the guys in the Residents, it just seems like they're boring, regular guys with day jobs. And then they get together and record this weird stuff.
Yeah.
And they tour every once in a while, but one of them has to be an accountant.
Yeah.
Put my money on it, right? Just,
The other one works at Starbucks and the other dude works for some construction company doing, drywall.
Right. It's like, what are you doing tonight, Jerry? Just going home with the wife and kids. Wink. Let's talk about these Primus covers. Frankie, you have all kinds of information about them, so I'm going to turn it over to you, the walking encyclopedia.
Sure, Josh. So, Hello Skinny was premiered by Primus in 1990 at the legendary IVIM in San Francisco. During the premiere, it was performed as a siege into Constantinople. But besides that, the song remained popping up at every Primus tour through 1990 up to 2000. Sometimes as a standalone track, sometimes in the middle of another track. Kind of what happened in 2003 and 2004 with Hallucinogenetics when they would play it in the middle of Too Many Puppies. It was sporadically performed by Fancy Band and only twice by the Funky Band. So that's, and Frog Brigade from time to time. So that's it in terms of side projects. With Primus, after the hiatus, the song came back into rotation from 2012 up to 2017, the last performance to date being the Halloween show from the band in 2017. So even though it's a cover, it stands as one of the most enduring songs in the band's live history. Constantinople has a much more simple live history. It was premiered at the same night as Hello Skinny, and it was never performed as a standalone track. It was always a medley. It was just performed from 1990 up to 1992, and then just once in 1994 at a very strange show at the Hollywood Palladium. That would be the last performance of the song to date. So that's the live history of both tracks.
Okay. Well, I'm curious, Frankie, around the Hello Skinny portion of this, because I've only ever heard it standalone or as an interlude for Too Many Puppies. Has it been used to break up other tracks that you're aware of?
Yeah, it's been used, particularly during Frog Brigade period. It was used as a tease or like a jam thing between random tracks. With Primus, it was much more steady. It was like a Too Many Puppies thing. But with the Frog Brigade, it was kind of up in the air. And, we're actually going to hear one of those performances in the live cuts section.
Oh, fantastic. I've only ever really heard it interspersed with Puppies, and I love how it breaks up the assault of that track because it's so different in its vibe. And then you get the 1, 2, 3, 4, and we get to go right back into the stomping, marching.
The funny thing about this tune, when they used to do it in the Frizzle Fry days, the first time I ever heard them do it, they were doing a show at the Phoenix Theater with the Limbo Maniacs were playing, and me and Merv and Brain and whoever else came out with cups and sang Constantinople after the skinny part into a mic, just being drunk and dorky. But as they progressed and I went back to Primus, this song was never on the set list. Like, Frankie, you can probably confirm. I mean, it'll be on your set list that you see because they played it. But
yeah,
this is one of those tunes that Les would bust it out when he felt like busting it out. And he didn't tell the guys. And it fell into place so well with Puppies. That just kind of became, that's when it really would come out all the time. But it's one of those things like he didn't say before the gig, hey, in Puppies tonight, we're going to do Hello Skinny, because they didn't do it every time,
Yeah.
If he decided he wanted to do it, he would just start going doom doom doom, doo, 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 and then all of a sudden the band goes, yeah, we'll do Hello Skinny. Here we go, which is really cool. I love that free form flow about that, And Les has a couple things that he has done and does that is like that. There's no plan. It just comes out when he decides to bring it out.
Oh, I love that it's so spontaneous like that because there is that natural break in Puppies after the solo. So Larry and Tim have to listen. And if they hear those,
they have to play along. They don't have a choice.
They're not just going to leave Les out there hanging. But
I mean, sometimes Les will turn around at that point and just wiggle his whammy bar and look at the guys like, ooh. It's like, okay, we're not doing it, they're always just ready because that's the moment, over the years that it would come out there. And some nights they didn't do it. He didn't want to do it.
I will say with so many performances of it and it appearing on live DVDs and that sort of thing, it really does scream Primus original to a lot of people, and not a lot of people know that it's the Residents because Primus kind of did their arrangement of it, and it's definitely different than what's on the original recording by the Residents, but more straightforward. I've
never heard that. I got to hear that. Dang it. I'm going to listen to that when we're done.
I'll play a little bit of it for you.
I found something interesting. I'm sure you've seen the Constantinople music video, right? The promotional video.
Haven't seen it.
I have not.
It's a pretty cool video, and it features, the band members wearing the eyeball costumes, but it also has this guy called Mr. Skull.
Right, Mr. Skull,
he was kind of the same, like a spokesperson, and he appeared in promotional videos and stuff. But apparently, Mr. Skull is Randy Rose, who identified himself as the lead vocalist of the Residents. At least from the period of 2010 to 2016, and then he claims to have been fired prior to their 2017 tour. I don't know if Mr. Skull was also, if he could be considered the lead singer prior to that period. I don't know. It's so complicated, but at least from 2010 to 2016, we know that this guy was the lead singer.
Well, if you get fired for the Residents, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I have to put that on your
more
resume.
interested to know who the dudes were that were in the 60s and 70s with guys when they first started this charade,
At least the guys that you see in this promotional picture, I think these are the guys that were at the banjo acoustic show from Primus, because you can see them in the photographs that Jay Blakesberg took, which, as far as I know, are the only pictures from the event available, and you can only find them in his book.
Oh, okay, yeah. The other thing
sense.
to point out with those pictures is that those guys wore those tuxedos and suits, but they even wore gloves, so you wouldn't even get a glimpse at all of them.
Skin or anything.
Yeah.
No skin. So if somebody has a telltale scar on the back of their hand, you're not going to see it, They
and you're at McDonald's getting a burger and you recognize that scar and you're like, oh my God, there's the dude from the Residents. Serving me my Big Mac. Holy moly.
Yeah. I'm going to follow him to his studio.
Or at least out in the parking lot after he's done working and just accost him with questions. And
comparing the recordings to Duck Staff, Josh, I want to hear your thoughts. But at least for me, the Primus versions, speaking about Skinny, speaking about Sinister Exaggerator, at least for me, they have a high replay value. I love listening to them. And the Residents versions, they're pretty cool in the context of Duck Staff, as a complete piece of music. But they're not, at least for me, the Residents versions of the songs are not the kind of stuff that I would listen out of the blue or spontaneously. They don't hold the same replay value for me as Primus does.
Mm-hmm. I think there might be a couple reasons for that. Not that I'm trying to break into your psyche, but we're familiar with Primus, right? We're familiar with the instrumentation, the vocals, the approach, and we get a more straightforward approach in the Primus covers, whereas the Residents went in all different directions and didn't really care if tempos didn't match. The instrumentation is different. Interestingly, Duckstab and Buster and Glenn has this weird lo-fi quality to it. In 1978, you could produce an album that sounded crystal clear and friggin' awesome, and these guys went in the other direction, and it really sounds homemade. Here's a little bit of Skinny just for a taste of that. Very different. I think we'll get some vocals too.
Skinny was born in a bathtub and grew so incredibly thin that even the end of an eyedropper sucked him in.
So that's a taste of that. And oops, there it is again. No, it won't go away. Okay, it's gone.
Wow. I've never heard that. That's incredibly cool.
Yeah, the vibe that they achieve is pretty great. And on this one, really, there's no drum track, so Tim Alexander gets to do whatever he wants.
Right on.
Within the confines of the instrumentation, I suppose, and creating a specific vibe. So they had some freedom with it, too.
Man, listening to that for the first time ever, and I've only known the Primus version.
Yeah.
Primus version is way better, dude.
It's very different, and so that interpretation by Primus, it makes it almost a brand new song. But
totally.
This was
totally.
my
I'm not dissing the Residents version.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's the first time I've ever heard that in my entire lifetime of knowing about that song.
Yeah,
Primus just plays it.
I remember being a little freaked out by the Residents as a teenager. It must have been my first year of college listening to the Residents and going, "Oh man, this is weird." It started to make sense, though, and I really went down that rabbit hole for a while. I mean, I could spend a whole lifetime down there with 40-plus studio albums and a dozen live albums and DVDs and whatnot. So there's a lot to chew on, kids.
I haven't chewed on one bite till just now. That's the first time I've ever heard of Residents.
Well, if you want to taste a Constantinople, I'll give you one of those, too.
Okay. Yeah.
And an old ball, here I come. All the leaves are off on the oak, and all the sheep have followed the smoke, and word I'm coming, Constantinople, here I come.
So do you hear that it's a little bit off?
Yeah.
Like they're not
nothing
right
is
on.
synced up. It's just
Yeah.
randomness.
Yeah.
So
Kind of thinking there was some LSD involved when they were putting this stuff together.
well, it does make me wonder, were they doing this on purpose? Were they just keeping it loose? But it reminds me of, you mentioned Beefheart earlier. He was recording without his headphones or something, so he was always off by half a beat or even more on a lot of his recordings. Mm-hmm. But given the nature of what he was doing, it worked. It made sense for the residents
got
to be
be
doing
part
that
of
too.
what the artistic final product was that they were trying to achieve to freak people out, and not be okay. Here we are, we're a band, we're going to play these songs, and this is what they sound like. It was like whatever happened, and if it was off, it was like, oh, well, that happened. Here it is.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, probably not a lot of quality control on these albums, but I could be wrong.
Right. There's no record label, there's no producers, or nobody jumping in saying you can't do it like that.
Right. Yeah, but what is cool about these recordings, now that you mentioned Beefheart, Josh, I'm sure you're familiar with Trout Mask Replica. So there's a track on that album called Well, and it's just Beefheart a cappella. It has no melody.
Yep.
It's got no discernible musicality to it. But in the 90s, in the early 90s, David Byrne did a cover of that song with a drum machine, and he actually sang the verses with some really cool melodies. So other musicians seem to be capable of finding, the musicality in these kind of things, just like Primus did with the Residents.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you hear how Primus took those two songs to like this other, even killer, more collected, spacey space, or whatever.
I'm really fascinated by that Constantinople track because of that. And so the way that Les adapted that to the bass. So Frankie, did you have something on that?
Yes. It's really mind-blowing how Les adapted that to the bass, with his left hand. He's kind of, I guess tapping, is the right word, on the fretboard. But with the right hand, he's doing that noise from the original version, So he's doing something very slow with his left hand, and then he's doing something really fast with the right hand. But he's doing both things at the same time. When I heard the studio recording, I thought maybe he had recorded each thing separately. And maybe he did, no idea. But when I saw a live video and I saw him doing both things at the same time, my mind was blown because, you don't need to have a physical bass in your hands to try it. You can just try to move your left fingers to the rhythm of the song and then do the other thing with your right hand. And, for me, it's impossible. I cannot synchronize my left hand with my right hand in terms of speed. The fact that Les could do that in the live performances is absolutely incredible.
Par for the course for Les. I mean, no one can play Tommy the Cat, number one.
Yeah.
Try playing Tommy the Cat and singing Tommy the Cat on top of playing that part. So, that doesn't surprise me that Les can do those separation things. He's got it. Rory has it the way he did.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of being able to play the piano and more complicated pieces where your two hands are doing completely different things at the same time. And I played a little piano when I was younger, and I was getting there, and then I went, I want to play guitar like Primus, and that didn't go anywhere. But just having that kind of hand-eye coordination, just being able to do those two separate things at once on a bass like that, it's pretty phenomenal to listen to. I really like that track. And they really upped the tempo, and the drums, of course. Tim is just breaking shit. Herb is, and it goes.
Particularly before Skinny seeks into Constantinople, what Herb is doing with the cymbals, it's absolutely insane.
Listening to it, I don't remember ever listening to this many times back in the old days. Certainly have not heard it in decades, but the tone of Tim's drums is just incredible. And, we've talked in other episodes about his weird little splash here or a little octobon there. And he does some things in there that listening to it today, I just was like, wow, man, sounds so cool. Almost 99.9% positive he's playing the orange Gretsch drum that he had before he got the pork pie kit, which was a drum kit that used to be Curveballs, who was the drummer after Peter Libby and before Jay Lane. He had this killer Gretsch USA custom drum kit. Tim bought it off him. Curveball wanted to sell it, And so Tim bought it, and he used that through the Frizzle Fry era, you know? And that's got to be that kit because I know the sound of a Gretsch drum kit. And Les has that kit now. Tim sold it to Les. It's at his house. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the kit that's set up. Les also has a Ludwig stainless steel kit. That's the one that's on the Sausage record, and it's on Holy Mackerel. It was the kit we always had set up in his Rancho place. And he's switched to that Gretsch kit because it's so cool. And I'm pretty sure that's the same kit that's on the Delirium stuff because I set that up with Les.
Cool.
To do the Delirium records. But just, man, that sound at that moment and Tim doing what he's doing in this Hello Skinny section is just mind melting for me. Face melting.
Like I said, there was really nothing on the Resonance record for him to reference, but he got to interpret it and he really makes a great drum line.
It's very Tim Alexander too at the same time. You know, it's not just him playing some random stuff. It's like very Tim Alexander kind of stuff, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's really cool.
Right on. Should we listen to some live cuts, Frankie?
For sure.
All right. First, it looks like, and by the way, Frankie sent 6 live clips today. 6. Because this is the most important Primus live track. Second only to Space Farm.
That's right.
So there it is. I knew it. All right. So we're going to take a look at 6 of these. Frankie, it looks like we're starting in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, we're starting in Columbus, Ohio, just, to get a taste of the Primus version of the song. So this is in the middle of Hallucinogenetics, and it's not a standalone Skinny. It's in the middle of Too Many Puppies. I'd like to hear what you guys think about this one.
Oh, yeah. That's the Skinny I know.
A lot of octobons going on.
Yeah, that's cool. The other thing I was going to point out is on the record, he doesn't necessarily do this, and the Residents don't really do it, but he gets into that higher register. Skinny found a hello Dolly! That thing. I love it when he does that. He just kind of lets it rip there, and it really is a little bit psychotic, of course, but it works within the atmosphere of things.
Totally. And, I couldn't figure out on the recording I heard today at the track of Primus if Les was singing the Hello Dolly in the end, because at live Lur sings the Hello Dolly.
Right, it's kind of hard to tell on the recording because I
can't tell if it's Les or it's both of them. And he goes, Hello Dolly.
Yeah.
But Lur does that live always. So
when you can hear his microphone, at least. That's one of my pet peeves of
that's
Larry's.
Rarely ever at audible levels when you're in the crowd, right?
Can never hear Larry. Almost never.
Yeah, it's in Les's ears. Les can hear him, but it's the crowd can't hear what the hell he's saying, and he mumbles when he gets on that mic.
That doesn't surprise me one bit, actually, because he's just okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Have you guys, Josh? Have you heard a soundboard from Fromage where they're in the middle of Damn Blue Collar Tweakers, and then Les begins the banter with the crowd, and he says, all right, so the request is for Larry to sing the entire rest of the show.
Indeed.
And then Larry walks up to the microphone and he says, the entire rest of the show.
Yes. Yeah, he literally sings that.
He's got some quick humor like that. Yeah. He's the best, man.
Yeah.
Man, when he sang on the Wonka tour, man, that one Veruca Salt song, man, that was the best, dude.
Oh, that was so jarring for me in the audience because I'm looking at Les because I was on his side, and then all of a sudden they're singing, and I'm like, who the fuck? Dude. Oh my God, Larry! It was so great. Man, what a great surprise that was.
If you guys could have been in the room when that all came together and Lur going, oh man. I was like, nope, this is your moment, Lur. And he was like, oh.
Oh, you'll have to tell us
I'll do it. Okay. And it was amazing every single night.
You'll have to tell us about that when we get to the Wonka record, man. I can't wait to hear about
I digress.
Can't wait for that.
Sorry. We're talking about Lur singing into the mic. So.
Oh, sure, all day. Frankie, looks like next we're at the banjo show. Yeah,
it's the legendary banjo-only performance to date, which was done to promote the enhanced CD of Tales from the Punch Bowl. So, besides being a banjo-only performance, what makes this Skinny unique is that they actually had the singer of the Residents do the guest vocals for the performance. So imagine the excitement from Les Claypool when they were performing that, for sure.
Audience recording. Those banjos are hilarious.
Yeah, I remember, man, that show. God, I remember that night. I seriously have no recollection of watching the Residents or watching the performance. I cannot remember. I remember meeting those dudes with their eyeballs off, and it was like, hey,
wow,
hi,
really?
Hi. I gotta go. I gotta run and grab this.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know who they were.
Nice to see you out of costume. Have a nice night.
Yeah, see you later, dude.
Oh, that's wild. That must have been a heavily fortified area.
No, I mean, it was a private event, dude. I mean, or maybe there was public tickets. I can't remember, the ramifications of who was there and why they were allowed in there for that,
Okay. Looks like next, Frankie, we're going to Calaveras County. Looking for some songs.
Remarkable performance because it's the live debut of the Frog Brigade, and you're gonna hear, a lineup with two drummers on stage, Tim Alexander and Jack Irons at the same time. So what makes this skinny unique is that, it's being performed by a side project, and the drum beat that they're using for the song is actually the one from Peter Gabriel's Intruder. So check it out.
Oh, weird. That's kind of cool. That's just some messing around, it sounds like, but that's cool.
Yeah.
That's the Mountain Air one, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's Todd Huth on guitar as well, I think, at that one.
Yeah, right on.
The very first incarnation.
That's cool. That's a good find, Frankie. That's one I know I've listened to that show before, but that I had no memory of that.
Yeah, it's a really cool one.
Wow.
I've never listened to it before.
Who would have imagined that, Intruder could work with Skinny, but it actually did.
Well, Les can make any two songs work together. He knows how to squeeze anything into anything,
He sure is a
and that's not a sexual beaver entendre. That's saying musically.
Thank you for that disclaimer. I appreciate that very much. All right. It looks like we have some Constantinople tracks too. So we're going way back to 1990.
Right on. So we're going to listen to a performance from Berkeley in 1990. So as you will hear, the tempo is faster than the studio recording, but you can get a good glimpse of Les doing the left hand, right hand thing at the intro. And I think that on these live renditions, even more than the studio recording, he's kind of emulating the Resident's voice a bit more. You'll tell me your opinion.
That is a breakneck pace.
Yeah.
Is that, Soya, what do you think? Youthful energy or just...
I don't know. That song doesn't do anything for me, to tell you the truth. I remember they played it in those old days, and I was like, what? And I sang backups a couple times drunk with all the boys. It was funny, but it was like, I didn't know what it was.
There is a video or two from that era that have surfaced relatively recently, and the crowd seems to dig it, but they also seem somewhat dismayed by it. So, if that's what you're going for, more power to you. It's kind of cool.
Les Claypool commands the stage, and he wants to play some Residents. that's what you get, man.
Yeah, we're going to freak them out.
That's right.
It looks like we're staying in 1990. That one was Berkeley. This one, it looks like we're in San Francisco proper. Tell us about that one.
Right. Right. So this is another performance, from the early days, and it's got the same quality as the previous one. It's kind of sped up. Les is emulating the residents' vocals. But I think, I'm going to play a passage for you from after the first verse so you can hear some cool drum work.
Sawyer's shrugging. He's not sure.
It ain't pudding time.
It's. I like that. That's your reference point is pudding time, because I can't remember the other thing you said, but like if they when you said when they space jam out pudding time, I call bullshit. So I like that. That's your
yes,
reference point.
Of course. Old guard, the group of us old guards would all call bullshit on Space Jam and on the old stuff like that, like pudding time or something.
Yeah,
it wouldn't just be me. I just was the one that was able to, because I was there.
It looks like we have one more Constantinople from L.A., Frankie.
Yeah, this is a really, really cool show from the Cat House, 1992. Wow. What is really cool about this show is that...
That's a tiny place, man.
Yeah, what is fantastic about the show is that as soon as they get on stage, Les Claypool announces that, they're in the middle of the Rush tour. But for the people that attended this show, which is a headlining, it's a solo spot, they'll be performing stuff that people will not hear during the Rush tour. Of course, they bust out Sinister Exaggerator. Of course, they bust out You Like It. And of course, they bust out Constantinople. And even though it's an audience recording, the quality is fantastic.
That's a good one. I like the sound of that one.
Yeah, just by listening to these performances, it sounds like Tim was doing something different each night.
I could tell you about why that went down. I know about that show at that little bar because I witnessed it one night. The Rush tour, Primus obviously was the opening band for Rush. Doors open at 6. Primus is on at 7. Rush is on at 8, right? Okay. And Rush plays till 11:30 or whatever the heck. Yeah. So Primus would do the Rush set or the show at the Rush concert and be done. Then they would throw some gear in the van, some basses and guitars and some stuff, and already have loaded in during the afternoon at a bar like that, right? And it would be a unannounced show.
Ooh,
okay, K-Rock or whatever radio station would go, okay, there's Primus is playing secret show at the Cat Club or wherever it might have been in what city. Kind of like how Prince did that after show thing, but different, And so then they would just get in the van and leave the Rush show and go and play some nighttime show because they'd go on at 10 or 11.
That's awesome. I love that.
So I witnessed that one time. Victim's Family was playing in Europe. We had our last show of our tour in Amsterdam, and Les and Lura were on tour with Roll the Bones in Rush, and they were playing down in Rotterdam, and they had the night off the night that we played, and they were playing the next night. So go to the Rush show, or they come to the Victim's Family show, and then the next day we get on the train and we drive down, because our tour was done and we had nothing to do. We were hanging out in Amsterdam for a couple of days. Go down to Rotterdam, go to the show. It was at the Ahoy, and it was Rush and Primus, and so hang out, meet the Rush guys. Jam with the Rush guys in the jam room. I have pictures. It's epic moment of my entire life.
Yeah, man.
Came out of my pants. It was amazing. Met Neil Peart, the whole thing, met all the guys. It was super crazy. Anyway, so Primus, we go out, Primus plays, we watch them. We're sitting in the seats, red seats and passes, whatever the heck. Sorry. Go in the back right after the show, and the Jerry and Porkchop are like throwing bases all in a stack. And they're like, yeah, they were going to the Night Town, which was this club in Rotterdam that, you know, my band had played and packed out. It holds like 500-600 people or some stuff. And they're like, yeah, dude, so come with us, man. Come on, man. You got to come check this out. So we all go. It was me and, you know, a bass player and roadie dude and our record label girl, Hetty. So we go to the Night Town, and sure enough, here's the Night Town is packed to the bejesus belt to see Primus, you know, because Primus couldn't play outside of Rush unless they did something like that. You know, it's like they're like playing arenas, and they were like, okay, this is cool, but we want to go to the packed club and jam some Primus out, you know. And so when they did it that night, it was super funny, and I came out and did some silly vocal stuff, and we all were drinking beers, and it was, you know, like a little 1 hour late night Primus set, you know, and that's what that is, that Cat Club show. They finished the show probably at, you know, the Staples Center or whatever it was back then, the LA Forum, Rush at the LA Forum for 2 nights. And one night Primus is playing at the Cat Club unannounced, you know, to radio winners or something, you know. That's cool. You got that. I didn't know that you were able. Frankie, of course, I'm not surprised you have that. But that's why they're in that moment they were playing at a bar and not.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool show. It's amazing.
Yeah. Nice. Mm-hmm. And just to do some of our housekeeping here, I don't know if we talked about it yet. This track was the Primus cover, Hello Skinny Constantinople medley, was recorded in 1990 or thereabouts and shelved for a while, and then appeared on the Wynona's Big Brown Beaver single from 1995, which is why we're talking about it now. It reappeared on the Frizzle Fry remaster that was reissued in 2002. So if you have a 2002 remaster or beyond that, Hello Skinny Constantinople is included on it. So by this time, a whole lot of people have heard it, which is great. I'm glad they put it on that remaster, so it wasn't just this one weird little track floating out there on its own.
Yeah, the great thing about this single is that there's a cardboard version, but there's a much more scarce slim jewel case version. It's the last slim jewel case single Primus ever put out. And it has a B-side on it, which wasn't previously available. So that's the golden age of singles right there.
Now, I remember listening to the Ron Rigler, his episodes. This was recorded, I would believe, at Different Fur during the Frizzle Fry sessions, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds freaking great. They all sound so good on it. And I remember in 95 thinking, you know, oh, they recorded this during Tales from the Punch Bowl, blah, 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 blah. My ear wasn't tuned, you know, to what the room sounded like and all that stuff. So going back and listening to it again, I go, oh, this is definitely not at Rancho Relaxo. It doesn't sound anything like it.
Right.
So
I agree. Do I agree?
I don't know what the...
there's one more thing. Soya, do you have any clue who Parrot Head could be?
Not a Jimmy Buffett thing.
Who? What?
Parrot Head. Let me show something to you. It's a recording from Hello Skinny Constantinople that surfaced a few years ago. There's somebody that walks up to the microphone wearing a parrot head to do the backing vocals with Les. Check it out.
Do you have any idea where the show is? 1990. It to me, it looks like a random fan got on and jumped out, or it doesn't look like anybody I know. You know, so back then, Les wasn't so opposed to people jumping on stage and doing stupid stuff. You know.
Oh, okay. It's definitely
could have been a buddy that was at whatever show that lived in that town, and Les said, "Come up and sing Constantinople, but put a mask on." Or the dude decided to put a mask on. I don't know. No idea. That's random.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
Probably isn't, but it could be a member of the Residents. So, Frankie, your theory still holds. We don't know.
Be. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Residents are from San Francisco. That looks like it's not in the Bay Area. If it's 1990 and it's small, that means they were out somewhere else. Because in 1990, they were selling the Omni out, which was 800 people.
Oh, okay.
That looks like some
reason, yeah.
Midwest club or some shit, and some dude comes on stage and Les just plays along with it. You know, he would be fine with that back then.
Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts on this one, guys?
I prefer Constantinople over Hello Skinny. Primus version, of course. But I think Sinister Exaggerator is where they reached the true apex of Resident covers. You know,
did they ever play that live?
Yeah, they did. They did.
I don't know that I've ever seen that live, or if I did, if they played it, I might have been downstairs drinking beer.
Oh, they in fact, so they actually did Sinister Exaggerator at the Cat House, dude.
Okay, I was not at that.
Yeah. So I think Sinister Exaggerator would be, the prime one. And then I love Constantinople, and Hello Skinny is my least favorite of the three, just because I like the Primus rendition, but as a song itself, I don't really care much for it, Residents or Primus. But I like the way they kind of insert it in the middle of Too Many Puppies occasionally. But it would be absolutely incredible if they brought back Constantinople. It would be really cool to see what Les Claypool could do in present days, given his technicality with that bass line.
Man, I'm exactly the opposite, Frankie. I mean, having seen them do Hello Skinny for years and years now, that always was a bright, fresh, fun moment for me to like pause what I'm doing and go up there and watch them do Hello Skinny when I heard it, Constantinople is just spunky. I don't know. I'm just not into that one. They only did it in the early days and random moments, but Hello Skinny just stood the test of time, and they still do it to this day.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah. Yep.
They definitely love it.
They even did it on the Wonka tour, I think, now and again in the end there. I don't even remember. Yeah. I don't dissect it like you do. I just, things happen, and I am busy. I don't know.
And you're busy. Yeah, I would. I guess I'm a skinny guy. I wish I was a skinny guy, but I guess I'm a skinny guy. So that's kind of where I fall, although I really appreciate both covers. But just going back and listening to the originals, it reminded me I loved the Residents for a long time, and just kind of fell off listening to them. So I'm going to spend the next few weeks just binging on Residents.
Tell me this, though, Josh. Did you hear the original Residents versions of those songs before you heard the Primus versions?
Oh, absolutely not. I heard the Primus versions first. Because I ran out and bought that Beaver single in 95. Yeah. Got to get it. It says Primus, so. But I have a great appreciation for the Residents, of course. So I guess that's where I am on it. I guess I'll say this. Hello, Skinny Constantinople. Hello, Dolly. You've been tracked. Everybody, we are at Primus Tracks on Instagram and Twitter. Why don't you come visit us sometime? Soya does not want to be visited on social media. He will visit you. Come calling when he is ready. This is the last you're going to hear from us for a little bit. We have some interviews in the can that you're going to be hearing over the next few weeks, and then we will be back in Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Pretty excited about that. Later days.
Willie Mace.
Vive la France, vive la France.